1 in 4 Americans have lived in a house they believe was haunted.
But there's something that comes into my room.
Well, hello again. I had been doing some videos about current topics and stuff, political things and whatnot, and I probably still will do some of those. But I wanted to get back to the spiritual realm. There's a book out called The Unseen Realm by Michael Heiser, and it's kind of put me on this path of looking into the supernatural, things that we've seen ourselves. And I happened to run across a video, probably because of Halloween. This video came out from Sean McDowell, and he was interviewing Carl Payne about supernatural occurrences and what that means for us as Christians. So let's get into it.
1 in 4 Americans have lived in a house they believe was haunted. Carl, you've written a book called Spiritual Warfare and dealt with this question many times in your life and ministry. So I want to know, how should Christians think about the possibility of a haunted house?
I'll give you a straight up answer, and then I want to read you an email that I got just before I came in here, because it again says that your assumption is true. But I would answer this way, I think. First, I would say, Sean, I always have had to sort through, is it real? Is it somebody who is just looking for attention? I remember when I was speaking in Gettysburg, every hotel there said, we have demons. And I finally said, what is this about? And they said, well, people will come to our hotel if they think it's, are you kidding?
Wow.
And I go, no, very serious. So I'm saying sometimes there's working through that. But that doesn't mean because there are people that play games with that for some kind of profit or curiosity that there isn't the real thing. And I have had to work with the real thing many times. I've worked with pastors, missionaries that have called me, and we've worked through it. I've worked with, I call it butchers, bakers, candlestick makers, just meaning anybody. You don't have to be in vocational ministry. So is it always true? No, I don't think so. Can it be true? I believe the answer is yes.
So when I saw this video, it reminded me of a time when I was a kid. I was probably between 8 and 10 years old, somewhere in that range. And I would get, scared in the middle of the night, and I would wake up sometimes. And the way my bedroom and the bed in the room was situated, I'd be right looking from the head of the bed to the foot of the bed, and then my door. And I could see all the way down the hallway, all the way to the past the hallway into the living room. And there was a couple of doors on the side. One side was my mom and dad's master bedroom. Then there was a bathroom, the hallway bathroom next to that. On the other side was the spare bedroom, we called it, and a long stretch of wall where there was no door. Right across from that was a closet. So I remember looking up, and I would get scared at night or wake up from a bad dream or whatever it is, or hear scary noise or something. And I would look down to see if my dad was awake. Because a lot of times my dad would be resting his eyes, as he would say, but he's dead asleep watching TV. Dead asleep is probably a poor terminology. Anyway, I would look down and see that he's in the recliner, passed out, had been watching TV. But I felt safe because I saw him down there, and that was kind of my go-to. Like, okay, Dad's there, so everything must be okay. Well, I remember one night, and I was looking down from the right wall, the right side of the hallway, in between that bedroom door and the living room, that wall that has no other doors, I saw a big, huge shadow. I would say this shadow was 8 feet tall. That's what I remember. It was like almost near the ceiling. It looked out, went back in, and then walked out from that position through the hallway, through the other wall. And I remember it to this day. And I was talking about it to some friends. And, it's been many years since that time. So, it's nearly 50 years. But I remember it vividly. So there are other things that happened in that house that were unexplainable. But I just want to throw it off to you, what they're talking about here on the video, and what I've expressed or shared with you. Have you had those things happen to you? If so, put them in the comments below. I'm really interested to hear about it. So let's get back to another section of this video.
So you're talking about what is often called a haunted house, but it's really a demonic manifestation. And there's roots for this often, like drugs and murder, like you talked about, etc. On one hand, you said a lot of the people that you work with it's not as dramatic as you see in the movies, like head spinning and stuff like that. So what are some of the signs that somebody should look for if it's this kind of demonic activity in a house? So you said temperature is dropping down. Is it certain sounds that we hear? Is it doors flying open? Is it a feeling of oppression? What are some of the common signs that would say there's more going on here?
Great question. I wouldn't put the temperature dropping, or when people say it has funny smells, I would say temperature can drop. But what I see is more often will be, Carl, there are things that appear in my house. Sometimes they'll say they're shadows. Sometimes they'll say, I can see them. What people will say, I don't even know if you're going to believe me, but there's something that comes into my room. I'll go, really? Yeah. Can I guess? I used to just let them share the whole thing. Now sometimes I'll finish it for them and they'll go, I'm not crazy. And then.
So is that the experience you guys have had? Maybe you shared something with somebody and they go, oh, it's just this, it's just that. Or were they more open? Because I've found even in Christendom, right? Even as a follower speaking to other followers of faith, of Christ, we tend to knock it down and say, and that's what they're talking about later on in this video. And the question is, why do we do that? What I want to pose to you is that is an eyewitness testimony that you have to something otherworldly, as Michael Heiser says in his book, The Unseen Realm. And as Carl Payne was just saying a few moments ago, that Jesus said these things were real. The apostles believed them to be real. They knew these things had happened. So what is it that makes us think that these things aren't around today? That's what I'm asking you, is like, what do you think about those things? So let's look at as always, I'll give you a couple of scriptures. So I'm going to read to you Leviticus 19:31. So right here it says, do not turn to mediums and necromancers. Do not seek them out, and so make yourselves unclean by them. I am the Lord your God. So the reason I bring this up is because a lot of us in our past have either done a Ouija board, guilty, I've done one, and there are communications in there that we cannot explain, right? So what this says in Leviticus is mediums and necromancers. Another term for mediums is a familiar spirit, a spirit that may look like or represent like somebody that we know. So that's why it's saying you do that and you think you're speaking to a medium or a necromancer, but you make yourselves unclean because it's a demon, and that is frightening. So in 2 Corinthians 11:14 and 15, and no wonder, for even Satan himself disguises as an angel of light. So it is no surprise if his servants also disguise themselves as servants of righteousness. Their end will correspond to their deeds. So Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. This is the origins for Islam. Muhammad saw an angel of light in a cave that came to him, and that was the beginning of the Islamic belief, or Islam. Also, Joseph Smith saw an angel of light in the forest, and that's how that religion began. So, and I'm not trying to bash on anybody, but this is what the consequence is. So it is no surprise if his servants, the servants of Satan, also disguise themselves fraudulently as servants of righteousness, right? Their end will correspond to their deed. So they're misrepresenting who they are, obviously. And that is also a bit terrifying. So the key thing to remember here is that these are not just, don't think of the devil as the red-skinned guy with the horns and the tail and the pitchfork. These are people or individuals, and I don't mean people from Earth. I mean they are persons of the unseen realm that are influences over us. Ephesians 6:12 says it like this: "For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic power over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places." And heavenly places is not meaning heaven itself; it's just meaning up. They're demons of the sky. That's where they dwell. So I just thought it was a fascinating discussion, and I am curious if you guys have had this thing as well. So once I decided I was going to do this video, I was sitting here and watching, I think it was the Travel Channel. The Travel Channel, for whatever reason, and they talk about, haunted stuff. Well, they have all these different programs that depict that kind of stuff. And this is one that I came across while I was doing this video. So this is not an exact depiction of what I saw, but it kind of reminded me of it because of the size of this guy and how he appears to be coming out of the wall. So what was happening in this episode is a lady and a New York retired police investigator. The paranormal lady interviews them and does her own thing. That's like half the show. And then the other half of the show is him doing his investigation from a grounded, evidence-based approach. And then they compare notes at the end. And anyway, so what was happening was they had it was kind of like a Spirit Halloween store, but independent. And they had people complaining that somebody was touching them in the store. Many people had that complaint. They had feelings of dread and all this kind of stuff. How you hear about typically, like they were talking about in the beginning of the video. So one of the ladies described to the investigative lady what she was seeing. And this is what they came up with. And I thought, man, that's so just reminiscent of what I remember seeing. Now, I didn't see the detail, like he didn't have a suit on. I didn't notice a suit, or I couldn't see his hands. It was legitimately just a shadow person, like a silhouette. That's what it was. And just like the video at the beginning of my video here. That's where I want to leave this off to you. I want to know what you think. If you feel so inclined, please share your story. Or make your own video too, man. That'd be awesome. Yeah, I'd love to hear if you've had any kind of experiences like that. What I will say is that you have been an eyewitness to something. What is that something? And is it important enough for you to think about it? Well, if that something is real and existing in that realm, how important is it for you to be on the right side of whatever those things are that we've seen? Meaning, if those things exist, do we just let life go on every day, just like normal? Or is it a cue for us to look to Christ? Because Christ talked about these things. The apostles talked about these things. These things happen. These things exist. And that means we need to get right with God. So anyway, I love you guys as always. God bless, and I'll talk to you next time.